Hi gang, how's it going? I'm Todd Nauck, and welcome to the Art of Todd Nauck broadcast show, episode 9. Glad you're here. Yesterday I started an illustration of Super Mario. Went a little outside of the box. Did post-apocalyptic Super Mario. What would Mario be like if he lived if the Mario world was post-apocalyptic? So we did the line art yesterday. That's episode 8. If you missed it, it's here on my Facebook, Art of Todd Nauck Facebook page. You can easily check it out in the video section, episode 8, to see the line art. Today is episode 9. We're going to do the Copic color. So we're going to finish this piece off. So I want to say welcome to everyone coming in, and glad you're here. And we're going to get started. Is there a place to find the list of Copic colors that I use? The Copic marker social network community, that site is down, and that lists all the colors in my collection. But if you watch any of the Copic marker illustrations on my YouTube channel, most of the YouTube videos, the ones I do specifically for YouTube, have the markers listed as I use them. Most broadcasts I verbally say which color that I'm using so that people can follow along or utilize the same colors. So let's get started here. So I'm going to start with some E000 to start in with the flesh tones. Let's see. Oh, I was wondering why we're shaking so much. Can't touch the drafting table there. Stabilize. And we're good. Have you ever thought about drawing post-apocalyptic Luigi next? Possibly. A lot of other art projects I got on my plate, so we'll see about any other Mario characters going post-apocalyptic for the future. But there's always that possibility for sure. We'll see what the response is like for post-apocalyptic Mario. So as I said, I'm using the E000 here for my base coat. Do I find my Copics before the show and organize the colors? I keep all my colors in this, or most of my colors, in this big 72 count wallet, so they're all in order of their color code, so they're easy for me to find. Same with my grays, which is in a separate wallet. So now some E00 here. Same frame. Oh yeah, was that a little out of frame there? Sorry about that. Thanks for the heads up. It was a little challenging with Facebook being a square frame. I have to get used to that. So this is the E00. Where have I got my most inspiration from? Comics. I mean, I've been long time inspired by comic books themselves. So let's see, some E11 here for some little darker shades, especially underneath the brim of the cap. Now I'm going to put a lot of gray in there as well, but I like to work in my different flesh tone colors first. I like to layer in the different shades and tones to start to sculpt things out. Let's see, you draw a lot too. Can I give some tips to be a better artist? You know, the tips I most subscribe to, and I'm happy to say this again and again and again. If you want to be a better artist, first off, make sure you're drawing every day, or as frequently as possible. If you can't draw every day, try to draw as often as you have free time. You want to build up that confidence through practice. You look at any sports superstar, NFL, NBA, they practice. They practice long and hard. They are always working and working out and working on their skills. Same way with an artist. You got to keep drawing. It's not always perfect. It's not always, it can be frustrating at times, but you got to keep at it. You can't get frustrated and let that stop you. So draw daily and then study. Those guys study film. Some R20 here for some rosiness in the nose, maybe a little in the cheeks and in the elbow here. So, those guys, they watch the game films. They study everything that they've been doing, what their competition does, the different aspects of their sport. Same with musicians or actors. Same with us artists. We've got to study and learn new techniques, study life drawing, study perspective. So study and practice, study and practice, study and practice. Got to develop those habits. So let's see, what's up next? Let's go ahead and take care of his eyes. Little B12 here. Those Mario blues. Oh, actually, you know what? I want to put a little of that same R20 pink under his eyes, just as a base. Oh, and then through the scar that we established yesterday. Probably use a darker shade of pink to kind of embolden that scar. So let's go ahead and do that now. A little EO4. Not quite a shade of pink, but it has a slight pink flavor mixed with flesh tone flavor there. Have I ever drawn Black Mana? Have I ever drawn the Watchmen? I don't think I've drawn any of those characters yet. Not that I can recall. So let's see. So let's go ahead and square away his hair. His hair is brown as opposed to his mustache, which is black. So I got a little E17 going in here. Bring that down into his face there a little bit. The stubble of his hair. His sideburns into his facial stubble. In fact, I need to darken in this part of the cheek here a little bit. So a little E01. There we go. Pull that through the arms here as well. Just kind of blend it all through. Maintain consistency. Let's see. Let's go in with some red now. Let's hit the reds. So R24, usually my go-to red for most of my illustrations, whether it be Spider-Man, Deadpool. If it's got red, usually I'm starting with an R24 base color. See, and then we got red in his shirt here. As we established yesterday, one part of his coveralls had come undone, or the button is lost, so it kind of, the flap hangs down, gives us a little more of his red shirt there. Then let's see, where else would I want to put some red? Is there any? Oh, and this M right here on his sleeve. The M on his gas mask. And then how about here on the flap of his glove? It's good for now. That's good for now. Let's come in with some R27. What's the best Copic marker set to get? I don't buy mine in sets. I buy mine individually so I get the exact colors I want. So I can't advise on sets. I like to buy. I didn't want to buy a set because I just wanted to ensure that I got the exact colors I wanted. So I went to the art supply store and I was able to check them out, test them out, and see which colors best suited my personal desires and needs. I could get the ones I wanted. Now a little R56 for a little darker shadows here. What do I do if I ever mess up on a piece and need to do or need to do a correction on a piece of art? Well, it depends on how big and bad the mess up is. Sometimes you have to start over. Sometimes you're able to make that a happy little accident, Bob Ross style. So it all depends on what's happened. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put some orange in through this red to give it some vibrancy. You might have seen me do this in my Spider-Man or Deadpool illustrations. So this is YR68. So I'm even going over some of the red parts here just to pump up the vibrancy. All right. Have I ever thought of doing a Batfleck post-it or piece? The Ben Affleck Batman? Haven't thought of that yet. A little B14, just a little darker shade here in his eyes. Just on part of it there, just the part closest to the highlight. What color is turtle blood? I don't know, we might have to get creative with that. So let's see, now speaking of turtle, let's color these shells here. I'm going to use green. So starting with some G14 here. G14 for my base color. And we'll carry this same green down into his arm guard. When did I first fall in love with drawing, and when did I decide to do it as a living? I first fell in love with drawing as a small child. Just always loved to draw. Just a natural part of who I am. Some YG45 now here for a darker shadow shade. And then when I decided to do it as a living, the night I made my first homemade mini comic when I was a freshman in high school. I was 14 years old, and I wrote and drew an 8-page comic book in one night on printer paper. I loved doing it so much. It was so much fun. I knew that night, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I started to teach and train myself how to be a comic book artist. Now some YG03, a lighter shade here, to blend into the white parts I've left open. All right, so that's got that squared away. Let's see. You know what? Maybe I should use, no, I'm going to use more of a turquoise here. So a BG34 for the lens of his goggles. Darken in with a little BG09. Just a little bit there. And BG32. Pull through the white there a little bit more. Blend some of those other BGs together. What? Was that the first Wild Guard comic? No, I didn't create Wild Guard till I was in art college. So let's see. Let's work on that hammer a little bit here. So let's try some E31. Okay, it's a little too light to start off with. So let's try some E34. Yeah, E34 is much better. Still use that E31 here in a moment. A little more here. Let's pull in some darker brown here with some E55. Go a little darker with some E57. I'm pulling in the direction of the main grain of the wood. Do have a little perpendicular cross hatching there, but the main direction of the grain of wood is the direction I want my color to go in right now. These are the kind of thoughts you put into your rendering of the piece, not just colors going in spots, but creating the texture and the flow. So let's go back to that E31 and blend it all through. There we go, hammer time. What were the artists that inspired me? The comic book artists. Those were the artists that inspired me. The ones mostly in comics. A little bit of animation, a little bit of Sunday, the newspaper comic strip artists, a little bit like Bill Watterson. Definitely an inspiration. But my favorite comic book artists that inspired me as a teenager: Arthur Adams, Rick Leonardi, Walter Simonson, and Alan Davis. My favorite X-Men artists of the time, and still favorite artists to this day. Let's see. Man, there's so many little bits on here, so many things to color. Let's tackle some of these belts and straps here. So we got some E84 to start off with. I want a different shade of brown than the hammer. Use the same shade here for his belt. I'm going to make an art book available to purchase with all of my live drawings. Not so much a book with all my broadcast illustrations, but you can get my sketchbook samplers at toddnauck.com. Some have, well, I don't think any of them have broadcast. Oh no, I guess there are some broadcast illustrations in some of those now. I don't really differentiate between my studio illustrations and my broadcast illustrations. So it's just got a bunch of my illustrations in them, so of all sorts. So and I'm just prepping my next full color book. Sketchbook Black is in the works. Hopefully it'll be ready, if all goes well, in time to debut at New York Comic Con, and it should also be for sale on my website also. Any advice on how to get better with lighting, like where to place it and how to just get better? Study harsh lighting. Like do research on do a search on lighting, like photos with light, different types of lighting, and look at where the shadows fall and where the light falls. You can also do that yourself with a flashlight, like in the mirror and stuff. So a little E34 here, different shade to kind of texture out this the shade of brown. So that's my best advice, is this: it takes a lot of study, a lot of practice. You kind of have to work through those challenging moments. Sometimes you pick it up pretty easy. Sometimes it takes a lot of just trial and error to kind of figure it out. But just keep studying, gang. Keep studying. Keep practicing. Like my Copic technique, a lot of this just came from trial and error. All right, so let's see what's next. Let's tackle that Band-Aid. Little E95 should be the right Band-Aid shade. And let's go ahead and just hit the coveralls with some blues. It's going to start with some B14.
How can you get better at inking your drawings? I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but you got to just keep practicing. You got to keep putting ink down on paper. One thing to consider is, doing just inking practices, like inking drills, I should say, where you just take a piece of paper and you just practice feathering technique or cross-hatching technique. Just doing that over and over and over again. That's what I saw the inkers at Extreme Studios doing back when I first broke in, back at Image Comics. They would do these inking drills, and so that's one way to develop that confidence. So you gotta just keep putting lines down on paper, man. Just keep doing that, and just have grace on yourself that sometimes it's just not going to work out right. It's not going to always look right. And you got to do those, for lack of a better way of putting it, you got to do all those bad drawings before you can start to get to doing the good drawings. Every artist has been in that place. I did not draw like this when I was 14. Not anywhere close. It's been a lifetime of practice and study. I hope to continue to evolve in my art from here on, always looking to study, practice, try new things, and develop my art in new ways. So you never stop studying, you never stop practicing, or at least I don't believe we should. I don't believe we should stop studying and practicing or trying something new. But that's just my personal take. So if you want to get better at your inking, you want to get better at your drawing your hands, better at drawing hair, you just got to keep pushing through. Keep practicing. Don't stop practicing. Don't stop studying. I mean, I don't. And we want to keep doing that so we can continue to level up. If you want to level up your art, that's the boss you got to beat. Is discouragement, frustration, insecurity. It's not always easy. We don't always succeed. But as long as we keep getting up when we get knocked down and keep moving forward, we stand a better chance of getting to where we want to be with our art. Or whatever it is we like to do. Whether it be your studies, your sports, your career, your part-time job, keep at it. So let's come in with a little bit of a darker shade. Let's try some B45 here. Dropping a shadow underneath that one flap there, so it looks more like the flap is overhanging his belly. Underneath the jacket where it overlays the pouches, the monkey wrench. What do the Copic numbers mean? There's two numbers. So a B45, it's not a 45, it's 4 and 5. 4 is like the value of the intensity of the blue, and then the 5 is where it is on that gradation. So a value of 4, or I think I'm saying that right. I might be saying that backwards, but the 5, like the 4 is like the shade of blue, and then the 5 is like how vibrant is it. So if you go B40, the 0 means it's very light. B49 means the 9 is it's a darker shade of that that value of blue. So the B45 is different from the B12. The 4 and the 1 are different families. But the B42 and the B12 would be about the same shade of different values. It gets a little complicated. They actually explained this on the Copic website as well. Sorry, I can't verbalize it as succinctly as they do on the site. They did a much better job of it than me. So let's come in with some of that B12 now to hit some of the highlight areas here, kind of blend all this through. Have you ever visited Comic Cons outside the U.S.? Yes, I was in Mexico City last September. I was in London just last month for London Film and Comic Con, and I got some more international cons to come to be announced. Let's see, let's bring in some lighter shade of brown through these belt straps here. The E31 again. Have you ever thought about giving tutorials on drawing? Outside of my broadcasts and YouTube videos, that's pretty much where I do most of my tutorial type or kind of walkthrough stuff at the moment. So you got a few little blue spots here that I missed. There we go, B14 in those little spots again, just using the base color. Oh, you know, I should use those same strap colors here for the straps holding on his arm guard here. So the E84. I don't like to stick with just the same family, so I'm using the E84 there. I don't just use the E8 shades. I jump over to the E34. I like to mix my shades because it creates different color textures and effects. And the E31. Sometimes I do use the same. You'll notice I use the B12, B14, B24, or R24, R27, but then I'll come in with different shades of darker or lighter shades of the blues or the reds. Just because I like the look and the effect that it will give. Okay, so let's tackle this monkey wrench here, and I'm going to use some darker shades of red here. So starting with the R56. And darken up with some R59. And then let's see, let's come in with some R85. And just kind of punch the red up just a little bit so it doesn't look too pinky. A little R24. So you can see I just kind of filled things in spots, different. I didn't just sit there and color the entire thing in because I wanted it to be textured, to give it a kind of a old metal sort of texture. So I just hit in different blops and bloops. A little R, let's do a little R95 here. Or RV95, I should say. A little more muted shade of a pink, kind of my darkest shade of pink here to kind of mute the colors out just a little bit. And in doing that, I just noticed there was another another spot of his pants I missed. A little B14 right there on that other side. Okay, let's tackle the pouches. So I want the pouches to be a different shade of brown. Oops, I just noticed another spot felt I missed. When you have a lot of details like this on your character, you'll catch things that you miss. So you have to remember what color you use so you can go back and hit. So I missed that part of the belt, so a little E84, and we're back in business. So let's try some more traditional browns. So this little E15 through here. And let's use the same shade of brown on his boots. Since he has brown shoes, we're going to give him brown boots. But the guards and the straps holding on the guards will be a different shade. So you can see I left a little highlight there, just hitting this side, hitting the other side, and then leaving the light. So the light's coming from above, pretty much down from this angle here for the most part. So that kind of gives me a reference point. So bit on the top of the foot, bit on the front of the toe there, and I've created the white highlight that I want. And then let's come in with some E17 to darken some spots up a little bit more. Well, I come to the Comic-Con in Tampa the next time they have one there. You know what? Feel free to let your convention promoter know you'd like to see me there as a guest, and maybe they'll extend an invite. So I don't have any plans to be there yet, but if they were to invite me out, I would definitely consider it if it works with my travel schedule. And all of my convention appearance information can be found on toddnauck.com. I always announce which conventions I'll be at on my website, as well as social media. It's easier to find that info on my website. And then let's see here through the pouches. Put this darker shade underneath the flap and on the bottom of the pouch. Now we're going to go to the lighter end of the spectrum, E13, just to kind of fill in all those white spots or highlight areas I've left open. Sometimes I fill in all the white, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I change the color family choice, but this one's all in the E1 family, E1.5, E1.7, now E1.3, as opposed to where I was using different family colors for the belt. So sometimes it's just, what am I feeling? All right, so boots, pouches, making some good headway on Mario here. So let's see. Let's start in on the buckles. I want them to kind of be silvery, so I'm starting with some B000. Just on the opposite side of where the light source is. Let's see, where are some more of my buckles? Maybe a little bit here on these capsules. Let's see, there's another buckle. And then I'm going to come in here with some cool gray number 1. What's my favorite convention that I've attended? Really, I enjoy all the conventions because, for me, every convention's all about meeting the fans and having a lot of fun. So as far as the convention itself, I can't say which one is my favorite because all the experiences are fairly similar for me. I mean, I'm at my table, I'm doing my commission pieces, and I'm getting to meet and chat with a lot of great people. So in that respect, they're all awesome. They're all my favorite. Though I do enjoy visiting New York City because it's so different from California. I love the tall buildings. I love that everything's open till all night long. So if I want to get ribs, a big plate of ribs at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., I can more than likely find that. Let's see, so that was some C1 before, and now we're coming in with some C3. So I really do enjoy visiting New York, but I've gotten to visit a lot of great cities, whether it be Chicago, Seattle, Phoenix, Denver, London, Cincinnati for the first time coming up in a couple of weeks. So I'm very excited to visit cities I've been to many times before in the past and new cities that I get invited to. seen a lot of different, can I draw this character or that character? All those characters suggestions y'all have made, it is a possibility. No plans at the moment, but they're all possibilities. So let's see, let's see, I want to tackle his shin guards here. Let's make those kind of a neutral gray. So I'm going to start with neutral gray 4. Kind of a dark shade, starting off with. But just the guard part, not the straps yet. So just starting off with some bloops and bleeps of color. And then we go a little lighter with some N4, neutral gray 4. And then some N1. Well, I want to kind of punch these up a little bit in the color. They're kind of a little too bland right now, so I'm just going to add a little light blue in here. So I'm using some B01 for the darker parts. I'm going to come in with the B000 for the lighter areas and just kind of blend it all together. As I've mentioned before in my other broadcasts and videos, I don't really use the colorless blender. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Colorless blender. For my blending, I don't really feel that's my best blending tool. I like to use the lightest shade of whatever it is I'm coloring to blend it all together. Like I did just right there. Alright, so let's see. We're starting to move into the jacket, gloves, finish the goggles. Got to color his gas mask there. Right now I want to just tap on the bandolier, some little cool gray 3 here on the bullets. Let's go ahead and hit those gloves right now. So they're kind of white, so we want them to kind of stay kind of white, but a little dingy white. So we're going with a C1 at the moment to lay down a base shade. It's pretty light starting off, but we want to maintain that whiteness. So I like using cool grays when I want to translate like white. There'll be other shades of white, and we'll get to that here in a little bit in other parts of his costume. Now a little bit of the B000 to kind of give it a bluish hue to the white. And then some C3 here to darken it up. Heavy up those shadows. So that's got his gloves squared away, and let's go ahead and take care of his jacket. Let's see. Because his coveralls are blue, that's a lot of cool color, so I don't want to go cool gray. Maybe I should go neutral gray for his jacket. So starting with some neutral 5 here. Cool gray would just be the cool color would be too close to the blue, and that's just too much cool. That's just too cool. Don't want it to be, I want his jacket to separate from his coveralls a bit more. So starting with some neutral 5. I don't think I said which shade of neutral I was using. Neutral 5. Starting off here. Does my wife draw? No, she doesn't really draw. Not really. I want to see a little neutral 4 there. A little too close to the neutral 5, so I'm not going to use a lot of this. I'm going to downshift a little further to neutral. We'll try neutral 2. Yes, neutral 2 is the way to go. Leaving a little more of the white, the open white there for the highlight on the leather. Just some little spots here and there. Use some of this neutral 2 into the rolled up part of his sleeve. Actually, I want that a little darker, so let's come in with some neutral 3. Alright, now for the white trim and spikes on these shells. I don't want it to be the same white as his gloves, so I'm going to use some very light warm grays. So I'm going to start with the warm 1. So it's almost like an eggshell sort of white. A little dingier shade of white compared to compared to his gloves. So leaving most of the spikes and the trim, leaving most of the white there, but anywhere where there'd be a shadow would be where I'd put the gray, the warm gray number 1. I'm going to come in with a little darker, just a little, warm gray 3. I'm not going to use a lot of this. Just going to put a little centralized shadow right there, separating the white from the warm gray 1. Using more of it over here because it's going to be a heavier shadow. Alright, let's for his knife here, I'm going to use kind of a dark shade of green, the G46 from the hilt there. I'm going to mix some colors here, and a little G43. Now it's a little greener than I want it to be, so I'm going to come in with some of that E31 I was using earlier. I'm going to bring this brown over the gray, or the green, to create a whole different color that's not even in my collection there. So you can see it's not super green, but it's not super gray. It's almost like an olive green. That's what I like about Copics, is that level of blendability and how it can completely change the color. So put a little, let's try some warm gray 5 for the hilt of his knife. That's a knife. Let's see. I'm going to have to tackle that gas mask. Oh, and I got the straps of his boots. Let's just take care of the straps on his boots here. Let's use a cool gray. So I'm going to start with cool gray 6. I want them to be kind of dark so that they stand apart from the brown of his boots and the neutral gray, neutral/blue gray of his guards there. What's a good place or book for anatomy references? Well, the book that we used when I was in art school was Byrne Hogarth. Some people like Byrne Hogarth, some people don't. I learned a lot from it. Some people like Loomis, Andrew Loomis. Those are some of the bigger names, so you can look into those guys. Byrne, B-U-R-N-E, Hogarth, like Hogarth, the kid from Iron Giant, or Andrew Loomis, L-O-O-M-I-S, and see what they have to offer there, and if they, that could be a good place to start. And now I'm at a point where I just study real life. like I want to look at actual, I look at photographs of people and study the shapes. So, and then interpret the real world through my filter. But I've already done my life drawing classes. I mean, I still do life drawing whenever I can, like at a workshop or something like that whenever I have time. But I do a lot of personal study. So a little cool gray 7 there. A little cool gray 7. So it's good that you're looking into studying your anatomy. Good luck with that, and have fun. A lot to learn. A lot to learn. See, I want to punch up some of the neutral gray here. Going back to the neutral 5. Just going to sculpt out the shades a little more here. Sometimes I like to put a second layer in just to bring a little more vibrancy or darker shade, shadow. Cut those shapes. I like to think of the color I'm putting in as shapes that define the wrinkles or the wrinkles of the clothes, the planes of the face, the planes of the belt, the arcing, the curve. All right, so let's get those goggles. It's on a red hat, so I don't want to use warm gray. That's a little too much warm, so I'm going to go with cool gray. So we'll go with cool 4. For the base. And then I'm going to put a little more shadow here with a cool 5. And yeah, we'll leave it like that for the moment. I want to tackle some of the white parts here of his Mario logo. So I got a little B01 there for that shadow underneath the Koopa shell. And put a little white through here, or the little B000 through there. Now I'll go over that with some cool grays, so some cool 1. Much like I did the gloves. So I used for the white around the logo of a little cool 3, a little cool, little darker shadow. Let's drop a little B01 under this part. A little more vibrancy. Alright, so I've been trying to figure out what the best color for his mask. Light green? Yeah, I think light green might be the exact way to go. Great suggestion. So I'm going to start with some G43. Don't want to start off too dark just yet. Come in with a little darker G46. I'm considering the shape of the gas mask. You know how gas mask... Well, actually, it's good to reference gas masks. If you have to draw a gas mask, and you... Now, I drew this one out of memory because I've drawn a number of gas masks in the past, so it's kind of locked in there a little bit. But the first time I had to draw a gas mask, or if I want to draw a specific kind of gas mask, I will reference photos of gas masks. This is why I say I like to draw from real life. Like I like to draw from photos. So I'll look at it and study the shape. Sort of the how does the mask angle around to fit on a person's face. So I keep these shapes in mind, and so when I'm coloring them, I'm keeping those shapes in mind as well. Because it's a series of planes, you know, it comes over, down, over, down, over, down. You know, the cylinders here, these are all shapes that we want to keep in mind when we're drawing. Keep in mind the shapes. The lines are important, but the lines are you want to know the shape of what those lines are going to go around. Yeah, green was the way to go here, for sure. I want to kind of muddy this up a little bit. Don't want it so bright. And I'm going to come in here with a lot of gray throughout this piece, but just putting some warm gray 0 on there, just to kind of take out the brightness of it all. I don't want it to look too skittly. Now, Mario World is a pretty bright and colorful world, and we got a pretty bright and colorful Mario going on right now, and I do want to keep a level of that bright and shiny happiness, but this is post-apocalyptic Mario, so I need to drop some. We're gonna drop some grays in here. We're gonna start putting some doom and gloom here into this Mario. So first off, I want to put some shadow underneath where the bill of his cap is. The bill of his cap is casting a heavy shadow over his face. So I'm coming over all that color I put in, coming over that with some cool gray 4. I want that flesh tone underneath so that when I put the gray over it, it mixes with that flesh tone. So it creates the color and shade I want. I just wouldn't color the whole face. Then because that part's supposed to be gray, I save that and just do gray over it. I mean, it would work, I guess, and if you can make it work for you, awesome, but for the effect I want to make sure I put the flesh tone in there and then the gray on top of it, so it's a shadow over flesh. So the gray mixes with that flesh tone, and it creates the shade that I want. And sometimes I like to mix up my grays, so we're going to come in with a little warm gray 4. Probably going to use a lot of this warm gray 4 here. So see, now we've started to get some depth there on his face. Start adding some warm gray to other parts of his fleshy parts. See, I like how the gray will then react and interact with the color that I've laid down previously. It's to get the effect that I want. I'm going to pull this gray through, well, through just about everything. I'll probably come in with different shades of gray because I really want this to look grittier. I want to get rid of that skittly looking, not get rid of it, but I want to minimize how bright and shiny it is. So coming through with a lot of gray here is going to do that. How many times have I done a great sketch or drawing and then messed up with the coloring? Did it happen often? It has happened, sure it's happened. Not so frequently that I can like tell you the number of times it's happened, but it's happened more than once for sure. And you know, it's disappointing, it's frustrating, but you know, and I feel my frustration, I feel my disappointment. It's not fun, but I just feel it and just chalk it up to these things happen and then keep moving forward. Start over if I have to, if it's not salvageable. And it's pretty, you know, it doesn't happen terribly often, but it has happened. And it's just a way of life. And I think it happens for every person, every artist, I think, has those moments. Whether you're a pro or you're a fan or you're a beginner, it's just how do you deal with it. Sometimes you can deal with it, sometimes you just got to start over. So still using this warm gray 4 here. Mostly cutting through a lot of the warm colored areas, but it's not restricted solely to warm gray or warm colored areas like reds, flesh tones, browns, golds, oranges. Saw yesterday someone had posted a comment. Like usually I go back and I read the comments and questions afterwards, since I miss a lot of them. And I saw someone ask a number of times what gray to use with taupes, a taupe color, which I guess is referring to kind of maybe a tannish type color. So I see tan in kind of the warm shade of browns. Most browns, I think, are warm shades, warm colors. So, so generally I would use a warm gray if I'm dealing with a tan or a taupe, as they were putting it. So I don't know if that person is here today, but this is kind of along those lines of which grays I would choose for a grayscale. What I use for a taupe. Bring this warm gray down in here into his boots. This is why I like that Copics are refillable. It's because I use a lot of ink. Going over colors with other colors, heavier saturation. So the fact that I can refill my colors makes the Copics more cost effective for me in the long run. I don't have to buy new markers when one runs out. And that's very beneficial. I'm going to drop some warm gray 6. It's a much darker shade, not much, a bit darker than I was using with the warm gray 4 there, just to punch up, just give us some more shadow here in the hammer. Maybe a little bit here in the where the strap starts to go underneath this arm there, it'd be a heavier shadow. So I want to cut some of that in there. Over here under the thigh, just a little bit more in there. If I ever feel I've got too much dark in there, I'll come in with a lighter shade and I go over that and it starts to lighten it up. That's another thing I like about Copics, is that they have almost a watercolor sort of effect to them. Not exactly, but somewhat. Do I have any advice on how to get into comics? Start drawing sequential storytelling pages. Let's come in with some cool gray 4 now. Drop it here on the shell. Take some of that brightness out. So you want to start doing your sequential art, and then take those samples to conventions. See if you can get an editor to take a look at them. You can check with your whatever publisher to see if they'll be attending that convention, have an editor or a booth space there, and if they'll be doing portfolio reviews. A polite posting on their social media, like especially on Twitter, can be a great way to start a dialogue with the company about what their review processes are and how you can get your portfolio seen. But posting online is good. I hear some editors find new talent on Tumblr. So if you don't have a Tumblr account, set one up. Start posting as regularly as possible. So cut this cool gray through the coveralls here. Haven't put any gray in the coveralls yet. So wherever there's a shadowy part, that's where I'm going to drop in some cool. Now what I like about the brush tip is that it creates these shapes. It's almost like using a real brush in a sense, halfway between a brush and a marker tip. So the more pressure you put down, the thicker the shape, and then when the less pressure you apply, the thinner the shape. So I can push down hard, then ease up and create these different shapes, which really work nicely for wrinkles, for what I want to do. You know, the wrinkles around the knee are bunching up around the boots there, or the wrinkles here from his pants, from the legs. But this is an apocalyptic world, so it's dirty. It is dirty. You don't have time to shower in the apocalypse, especially when it's post-apocalypse. I guess the apocalypse has already happened, and now you're trying to survive, and you don't want to waste water on bathing, not when you need it for drinking and sustaining life. So his clothes are going to be a bit ripe. So dropping these shades of gray through here. Hopefully I wasn't completely off screen for a lot of that. What's the hardest character to draw? Interesting question. It's really not so much how difficult they are, but how time-consuming they are. The more detail on a character makes them more time-consuming. But really, any character is a series of shapes. And it's just learning how to get comfortable with those shapes. A little cool gray 3 now here through his facial stubble. Yeah, you can post on Instagram. The question is, would Instagram be a good to post to get some editors or publishers to look at what you have? You know, the editors and publishers might not troll. Troll's the wrong word. Scroll through Instagram. Hopefully they don't troll. That would be very rude. Scroll through Instagram. It's possible. You know, you can develop a following on Instagram. But I don't know if they specifically go there to find new talent. But yeah, definitely post there. I say post on every social media site because you never know who's going to see what where. You know? That's why I like to post my material on most every site. In fact, I just now started a Snapchat. Pretty much I only use it to announce when I'll be doing a broadcast. But at least I'm putting something up there. And who knows? People might discover me through Snapchat. Don't do a lot of Snapchatting. Don't have time to snap a lot of chats. But I'm trying, you know. But Twitter, Instagram's probably my favorite because it's all about art. So coming in with some cool gray 6 for even darker shades through here. So post everywhere. Post everywhere. You want people seeing your work. You want to develop. It's branding yourself. So so you want to be careful. Be polite online. Be cautious in what you post. Because editors see this, they read this. Editors are employers, and the way you handle yourselves online is reflected in your professionalism. So be careful. Don't go flaming or trolling, because that's going to reflect badly and could hurt your chances of getting a job. So you want to be as professional in your interactions online as you would if you were in the quote unquote office. So. So be careful what you post. You are a brand, artists, young artists. Each of you are a brand. And you don't want to sully your brand by posting rude or snarky things. Be mindful, because your account that's been a fan account, maybe one day you start getting work, and then you got all this garbage on your social media, might not reflect well on you. So be careful, be cautious. Be mindful what you post, is all I'm saying there. Treat your brand right. All right. So there we go. Let's drop in these different shades of gray in here. Just really helps give it a different texture. What's my Snapchat? Todd Nauck. Most all of my social media is Todd Nauck. So if you ever want to find me, just search @Todd Nauck, or on Tumblr, I'm toddnauck.tumblr.com. Same with DeviantArt. So if you just search Todd Nauck, you're bound to find me. Let's use that same, well, a little more darker shadow here underneath the pouches. Alright, now we got some parts where there's kind of stain, so I want to use darker shades of warm gray here right now. Just kind of start coloring in those spots for those stained areas. Same here on the shin guards here, using this warm gray because it will complement the cooler colors I've placed in there, help it stand out a little bit. So like he's been either running through mud, or whatever blood has stuck to his guards have been caked with mud on top of it, or dirt on top of it, so it's not so much blood as it is a mishmash. And some places where I didn't even draw in where a stain would be, I go in and texture him out with that, and it just really start to get a flavor of a texture there, huh? Same here with his pants. Just put these stains in the shirt, maybe here on parts of his jacket as well, maybe even on his arms and on the gloves. Just a little bit. I want to be careful not to overdo it. It's a challenge. A lot of people ask, how do you keep from overworking a piece? You learn as you go, and you still end up might accidentally overwork a piece. So it's bit by bit. But the more you do it, the more you learn, and hopefully your overworking a piece doesn't happen quite as often. So I really want to make him look like he's been muddy. He's gonna have some dirty fingers, like he's been on Survivor Island, or has been traveling through Middle Earth trying to return a ring to a volcano. Those guys have the dirtiest hands. Between Survivor and Lord of the Rings, my goodness. Maybe a little bit here on his face. Just cutting in with some little bleeps and bloops. Happy little bleeps, happy little bloops. We're gonna Bob Ross this stuff. Bleeps, bloops, blops. Just little smudges of dirt. Dirt, soil, turtle blood. We don't know. We don't know the adventures this guy's had. We can just make them up as we go. Oh, definitely want to hear on the hammer. This hammer has seen some action. Let's come in with some darker shade of red here. The R58. No, R56, sorry, R56. And go over that with a little bit of the gray here, just to create that color. Happy little dirt, that's right. Okay. Oh, and on the wrench, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot the wrench. It's almost the same as the hammer. Coming in with that warm gray 6. We're just dropping some in there. Now it's kind of dark and I want to lighten it up a little bit, so I'm going to downgrade to the warm gray 2. And as I start to work over that, it starts to lighten it up a little bit. See how that lightened up a little bit? Let's try that in another spot, like right here. Just working that dark spot with some cool gray, warm gray 2, and it lightens right up. So if you have gone too dark in an area, especially when you're doing your dirty work here, you can lighten things up. Let's come with some of that cool gray. Let's get some cool gray in here. And now that I've lightened that area up, the cool gray kind of shows up a little bit more. All right. I think we're gonna let this be what it is for now. Let's pull back so you can see the entirety of the image. No background right now. If I do one, I might do it separately, but right now we're just gonna let this be what it is. Stark white background. But that's Mario in color. I can't believe it took us an hour to, but there's a lot to color here. And there we go. So I know I missed tons of questions, so I'll flip around here, answer a couple of questions, and we'll wrap this show up. Hey gang, come on, flip around. It doesn't want to flip around? Fine, I'll hold it like this. So, were there any other questions? Have I ever thought about doing a self-portrait podcast or broadcast? I haven't thought of doing that. I don't know if people want to see me draw me so much. Something to think about, though. Thanks for the suggestion. Were there any other questions? I want to make sure we get a chance if there are any last ones there before we sign off. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and we can call it a broadcast here. So I'll give it just a couple of moments. I can scroll through here, see if there are any questions that I missed. Huh. Let's see, I caught some of these questions here at the end. Yes, do it. I should do a broadcast of me. When's my next broadcast? You know what? My broadcasts are pretty intermittent, unfortunately, because working a freelance schedule, it's time really has no meaning. That's usually why I don't remember what day it is when I do an illustration. I have to double check, and I sometimes write the wrong day because I have no concept of time. Some people say it's because I'm a time lord, but really it's just because I'm scatterbrained because I'm working such weird hours. So
my broadcasts don't happen at a certain scheduled time. At least not right now. So stay tuned and follow me on all my social networks, because usually I post when I'll be doing one, usually 15 minutes to half an hour before broadcast, ideally, so that people know to tune in. Yeah, so thank you for asking, and thank you for wanting to watch more of my broadcasts. I appreciate that. No white gel pen? Not really. This one didn't need a lot of white gel pen. No, just decided that one little spot on his elbow, and since his nose had already still had a highlight on there from the white of the board, didn't really need it. So, any new books coming out? Thank you for asking, Desmond. Yes, Deadpool 2 soon. I'll be hyping this book until it's out. October 19th is when the first issue comes in stores. If you haven't heard about Deadpool 2 soon, it's a mini-series I've done, starring Deadpool, obviously, and a lot of other guest stars. So if you like Ant-Man, Punisher, Squirrel Girl, Rocket and Groot, Howard the Duck, Spider-Ham, plus others that I can't even say yet, you'll want to pick up Deadpool 2 soon. It's a crazy story, a lot of fun. I've had such a fun time drawing it. First issue number 1, comes out in comic shops October 19th. Tell your comic shop that you want the book. Have them add it to your pull list so you don't miss an issue. It's a 4-issue miniseries hitting October 19th. And then I got some other stuff that I can't talk about yet. Books I'd recommend on drawing comic style or just action. Any how to draw comics book would be good. How to draw comics the Marvel way. I've yet to meet a professional comic book artist that hasn't used that book as a resource at some point in their artistic journey. So I'd suggest that one if you can find a print of it. Who's my favorite Marvel superhero? Kitty Pryde. Love Kitty Pryde. And yeah. Can I flash the camera at my materials real quick? Oh, sure. Here we go. This is my desk. So you can see my Copic markers, my art pens and pencils. All of them you've probably seen me use in my videos. Got my my iPad there, and my T-square, my triangles and circle templates, so my drafting tools. So that's what I use there for that. Have I ever met Jim Lee? Yes, I have met Jim Lee. I've met him, gosh, years ago. When I first worked at Image, when Wildstorm was still a part of Image Comics, was when I first met Jim Lee, and I've seen him a number of times, seen him at conventions and other sort of get-togethers. So yeah, great guy, and of course, fantastic artist. I've been a fan of Jim Lee's work since I was a teenager, so love his work, and he's a really nice guy. Great family, too. So gang, I want to say thanks so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to get to hang with y'all, to get to draw with y'all. Thanks for all the comments, the questions, and support. I think all of y'all are awesome, and hopefully I'll see y'all again really soon. I hope you have a great day, and talk to you later. Bye-bye. Have I ever thought about doing a self-portrait podcast or broadcast? I haven't. I haven't thought of doing that. I don't know if people want to see me draw me so much. Something to think about, though. Thanks for the suggestion. Were there any other questions? I want to make sure we get a chance if there are any last ones there before we sign off. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and we can call it a broadcast here. So I'll give it just a couple of moments. I can scroll through here, see if there are any questions that I missed. Let's see, I caught some of these questions here at the end. Yes, do it. I should do a broadcast of me. When's my next broadcast? You know what? My broadcasts are pretty intermittent, unfortunately, because working a freelance schedule, it's time really has no meaning. That's usually why I don't remember what day it is when I do an illustration. I have to double check, and I sometimes write the wrong day because I have no concept of time. Some people say it's because I'm a time lord, but really it's just because I'm scatterbrained because I'm working such weird hours. So my broadcasts don't happen at a certain scheduled time. At least not right now. So stay tuned and follow me on all my social networks, because usually I post when I'll be doing one, usually 15 minutes to half an hour before broadcast, ideally, so that people know to tune in. Yeah, so thank you for asking, and thank you for wanting to watch more of my broadcasts. I appreciate that. No white gel pen? Not really. This one didn't need a lot of white gel pen. No, just decided that one little spot on his elbow, and since his nose had already still had a highlight on there from the white of the board, didn't really need it. So any new books coming out? Thank you for asking, Desmond. Yes, Deadpool 2 soon. I'll be hyping this book until it's out. October 19th is when the first issue comes in stores. If you haven't heard about Deadpool 2 soon, it's a mini-series I've done, starring Deadpool, obviously, and a lot of other guest stars. So if you like Ant-Man, Punisher, Squirrel Girl, Rocket and Groot, Howard the Duck, Spider-Ham, plus others that I can't even say yet, you'll want to pick up Deadpool 2 soon. It's a crazy story, a lot of fun. I've had such a fun time drawing it. First issue number 1, comes out in comic shops October 19th. Tell your comic shop that you want the book. Have them add it to your pull list so you don't miss an issue. It's a 4-issue miniseries hitting October 19th. And then I got some other stuff that I can't talk about yet. Books I'd recommend on drawing comic style or just action. Any how to draw comics book would be good. How to draw comics the Marvel way. I've yet to meet a professional comic book artist that hasn't used that book as a resource at some point in their artistic journey. So I'd suggest that one if you can find a print of it. Who's my favorite Marvel superhero? Kitty Pryde. Love Kitty Pryde. And yeah. Can I flash the camera at my materials real quick? Oh, sure. Here we go. This is my desk. So you can see my Copic markers, my art pens and pencils, all of them you've probably seen me use in my videos. Got my my iPad there and my T-square, my triangles and circle templates, so my drafting tools. So that's what I use there for that. Have I ever met Jim Lee? Yes, I have met Jim Lee. I've met him, gosh, years ago. When I first worked at Image, when Wildstorm was still a part of Image Comics, was when I first met Jim Lee, and I've seen him a number of times, see him at conventions and other sort of get-togethers. So yeah, great guy, and of course, fantastic artist. I've been a fan of Jim Lee's work since I was a teenager, so love his work, and he's a really nice guy. Great family, too. So gang, I want to say thanks so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to get to hang with y'all, to get to draw with y'all. Thanks for all the comments, the questions, and support. I think all of y'all are awesome, and hopefully I'll see y'all again really soon. I hope you have a great day, and talk to you later. Bye-bye.